Welcome to Season 4 of the A New Narrative podcast. I'm Sam Zagar, your projector guide and host. I've been known as being source-based in my work with human design for years. This season, we're going to be exploring source, but you might be surprised at what source I'm actually talking about and how it's been guiding my work. I hope you'll join me as I interview guests or do some solo processing on my adventure back to the source. Welcome back to another episode of A New Narrative. I have Dr. Brittney Ellers with me here today, and I was recently on her episode. So go back to her podcast, which is called Pelvic Pulse. It's very, very good. And we are a lively bunch. We have some pretty engaging chats. And honestly, we already started getting into it. I was like, we better hit record so I can capture some of these. Brittney is a splenic projector, and we're going to talk about quite a few health things, quite a few probably life, relationship, and we're fairly comical, we're fairly outspoken. Welcome, Brittney.
That we are. Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you said yes.
Oh yeah, spleen was an immediate yes. You'd been on my list too for like wanting to speak with either on my podcast or your podcast, but I loved that it worked out perfectly where we could just do this little swap.
Well, it's cool because like even though we both want to be on each other's podcast, a lot of people will do like a continuation of the same conversation and share the episodes, but you had things you wanted to talk to me about, and I have different things that I want to talk to you about, which is honestly super cool. Like it does feel projector recognizing. Like there are things I want to see in you, and well, there are things that you asked to see in me last time. But
100%.
I want to talk about your work from a couple of different approaches or perspectives, because now that I'm being more public about the body jumping thing, and you were in the projector differentiated development group, I'm thinking that projectors in general have pretty cool sensory gifts, what we call extrasensory perception. We've got some pretty cool gifts, and I want to talk about how yours come up, especially because you work in health and you work specifically with women and women's health things. And it was my own issue that got me to talk to you a little bit more deeply about that and then have you on the podcast. Why the emphasis on the women's health?
Well, it was my own stuff that got me going into it. Just for like a little background, I am a pelvic physical therapist. I treat very holistically. Uh, Really, it was like my own journey into rediscovering because I didn't have any awareness of this, and it's just so funny to like look back and think about this journey, but I had no awareness of my menstrual cycle. I didn't give a fuck. Like I didn't know what to care about. When I got to college, I was on birth control to prevent pregnancy, which is, in my belief, like what it was created for. Yeah. I mean, not what it's used for typically these days, but I think people are getting back to that, which is really interesting. Um, yeah, I was on 3 different kinds of birth control through 10 years of using it. And then I read this book, Woman Code, and it really changed the game for me. Like I realized how important our menstrual cycle is, not just like the period, obviously, but ovulation and all the other phases in between. And I ended up weaning off birth control, then got really into pelvic health because my pelvic floor was screaming at me one day after using a vibrator.
I remember this story. I read about this story on your
Oh,
Instagram.
yes,
You
yes, yes,
powered
yes.
through a fast orgasm.
I sure did.
Uh-huh.
It was like a 5-10 minute session, which was like kind of my typical at the time.
Yeah.
But that particular day, I remember it being very rushed and I like literally jumped off bed and went into work. By the time I was at work, my pelvic floor was like aching. It felt sharp. It wasn't a UTI. I've never actually at that point had a UTI, but I knew kind of about the symptoms. And I would try to go to the bathroom, nothing would happen. This, by the way, was at the time when I was working as a physical therapist in a clinic where it was kind of like a mill. I was working with people 5, 6 days a week because I was teaching yoga on the weekends. And I was seeing probably like 8 to 12 patients a day, which sounds like so stupid.
That's quite a bit. right?
Yeah. That's a
But then
lot.
I also think about going to a like I know you're definitely not a walking clinic, but when I would go to a walking clinic, it's like if you're only seeing me for like 5 to 10 minutes and you're here all day, how many people are you expected to see in a day?
I mean, chiropractors see a lot more than I'd say a physical therapist. At that point, I was seeing my patients for 30, 45 minutes, depending on if they were Medicare or not.
And that's a reasonable amount of time to be with each person. Like you're getting into it, but not long enough to get too deep into things
Oh, but of course, I would be going deep as
immediately.
hell with some of these people. Yeah. Yeah. And, anyways, with the pelvic floor thing, I was actually working with a pelvic floor physical therapist. She was my patient. And so I called her up and she was like, you know what to do. Just take some deep breaths, maybe have another orgasm, but basically, like, find some space, find some openness and pleasure. Don't rush the process. Like, at that point, I realized, okay, pelvic floor is just a little too tight, a little hypertonic. I carried all my stress there, which, I mean, when I look at the body, like, it is the root.
How would
And
you know if you carry your stress there?
through symptoms
It,
like pain, dysfunction, like all of the bladder things I was
I'm like, well, I'm
experiencing.
like trying to squeeze certain parts of me right now, but like if I tighten that floor right now, but I do it to the point where I don't recognize. So I brace my abs. There's something
Hmm.
about my definition where I'm always like braced for what's coming. But like
Mm.
if I were to brace that part without realizing it, what is that communicating to me? And so like can we go into like old school Freud stuff where it's like anal retentive or like is there urinary retentive or like
Well, I always think about like, okay, from a postural standpoint, I think it's really interesting to compare our bodies to like animals' bodies.
because we're
And just
up,
like,
right?
well, I just mean like when you say you're afraid instantaneously, or say you're not feeling confident, you go into a rounding of your shoulders, your tailbone tucks underneath you. Like, think of a scared dog that tucks its tail.
Yeah.
A lot of humans do that on a regular basis when they're in constant, say, like fight, flight, freeze. So in like a sympathetic nervous state um, system, like that is kind of what we all do. But depending on also how you live your day, maybe you're actually super anteriorly tilted and your back is super arched and it's just like maybe your low back's tight, but your abs aren't activated well enough to actually keep your center, keep your solar plexus, keep your sense of self there. Like, I think that's really, really interesting to look at.
Do you think there's any correlation with human design stuff like defined root, defined sacral, undefined sacral for posturing?
I I'm trying to track that right now because
Okay,
as
but
my
this is the stuff
awareness
we have to
starts
study.
to
There's no answer.
exactly. Like I find it really interesting though. Like for example, I have a lot of postpartum clients. And so if I'm lucky, I get to work with them in pregnancy, like maybe that third trimester, but ideally, I mean, some of them are coming in as early as the first trimester, who knows? And in the postpartum, depending on how their birth went, I'm also looking at their definition, but where their symptoms are. And I definitely relate it to the chakra system, which is obviously enveloped in human design. So, like this one postpartum client that I've been working with for a while, she has an umbilical hernia,
Okay.
and it's only ever aggravated when she starts to think about what she wants to do with her life, or if she's like feeling that sense of unworthiness for what she's doing right now, which is just stay at home momming, which is to me one of the hardest jobs, most important jobs.
One of the worst. Okay. The only thing I really did not like about being a stay-at-home mom was it felt like it made me dumb because I stopped having well, don't get me wrong. It's not to say that everyone's having smart adult intelligent conversations
Mhm.
anyway that they're getting pulled out,
Fair.
but I missed having adults to hang out with. And even when you could try and get together with a girlfriend, it's probably a girlfriend who also has a kid or a baby, and you can't maintain a flow of conversation because you're sitting next to another woman while tending to your kids, and at least there's another woman nearby. It just kind of becomes like, and yet also it's kind of nice to I miss being absorbed in the monotony of having a baby and like not having to be super intelligent about a lot of things. It was
Mm.
kind of the, oh God, this is terrible to say. It was kind of the equivalent to like a bit of a dead end job where I'm like, I'm gonna go stock shelves and just like listen to a podcast. But like when you have a super little baby, they're useless. It was so funny for me as a young new mom to be like, no one told me how I'm not to be offensive to my baby, but like no one told me how useless they can't sit up, they can't look at you, they can't maintain a conversation. Like they're blobs.
Needy,
All
needy little
you're
blobs.
yeah,
I
you look
love
at them and
them.
you're like, you're so cute or you're so pretty. And don't get me wrong,
Right.
I do look at them and just be like, oh,
Mm.
like, this is so nice and you're so precious. And but also like as a intelligent woman, I'm starving for some conversation here. And at that point, my husband getting home from work was not sufficient engagement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely one of those curiosities, at least for her. Like how would she want to spend her time if not caring for her son? Because she does have help. So there is a woman there. She could be having conversation with her. She also has a shit ton of other talents.
Is she comfortable to actually use any of them?
At this point, e- I think she would be. I don't know. This is also the question of too, like having another baby. We don't know.
Man, what it and like, yeah, I think about that all the time. I've never, how do you not? There's no way for me to not think about that as a sexually active woman not on birth control. I'm going to think about like what days not to have sex or what days to have sex, which means that every couple of days in every cycle, I'm like, where are we at and what are we trying to risk or what are we trying to establish? Or
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting because um she's been breastfeeding, and I know we talked about this a little bit on my
uh-huh.
podcast, but we didn't necessarily talk about like when are you fertile again and how is that different from person to person, from pregnancy to pregnancy, because you could get your period while still breastfeeding, which means that you ovulated before you got your period. So,
Happened to one of my best girlfriends. She caught her first egg and her baby was like not even 4 months old. She was only at 4 hour breaks in nursing and she caught her first ovulation.
wow.
Yeah, but she's a trooper. Never actually seen her design, but I'm thinking pretty powerful generator.
Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Irish twins, that's what those are called.
Yes. Yes. Born within the year or 13 months or something. Almost Irish twins, I guess, if it's 13 months, but within the
Okay.
year.
How much of your work is in person versus how much is online?
At this point, I feel like it's majority in person. I treat like two, maybe three times a week, in my home office, which is really lovely, just a sunroom. And yeah, I really, in learning about human design, which I did learn about while I was a PT in that clinic, it didn't it didn't stick except for the fact that I was a projector, and it was like no wonder I was burning out. But probably about, yeah, a year and a half ago, well, now 3 years ago, we moved into this house, and it's been so much nicer just having this place for people to come, and I get to work with them in any way I want.
So when you're working with a client, how much of the information that you get is based on like conversation from the client or an intake firm versus how much information do you get based on what you pick up on your own?
I feel like it's different person to person and session to session with that
It-
person.
like based on I'm like, so projector things, is this based on how recognized you are and how open they are or what?
Mm. Well, okay, so I'd say for the first initial session for most of them, I sometimes I just end up talking to them, talking with them, learning more about everything and what they're going through. Um, I mean, it's so funny because in PT school they're like, keep it under a 15-minute subjective if you have 45 minutes to an hour to assess and treat, for that eval. But I'm starting to feel less and less, I guess, guilty about that structure. And I'm way more open to just seeing what questions they have for me and letting them pull it out of me because I'm very right-brained. Um, yeah, it's like they're not paying for quote unquote talk therapy, but that's sometimes what I'm doing. However, if I can get my hands on them, there are really cool things. I mean, I don't have to have my hands on them to hear messages. I'm starting to realize that my intuition is just getting stronger almost by the day because I'm paying more attention to it. And I'm getting, let's just call them whatever, intuitive hits, downloads for people that are across the country that I care about, that are open to it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what what kind of questions are on your intake form? Are they all
Mm.
physically based?
Mm, yes and no. It's kind of a general subjective intake. So I have them check certain boxes, but I think I do break it down mostly by physical.
Yeah.
If they do have some kind of like mental things going on, like there are some parts where they can fill that out. I probably should update that.
Well, this is where I'm kind of interested. I'm like, most people think they're coming to you for a physical thing. So their answer is going to be physical. But I know that intuitively you're getting, let's say, backstory or cause of something. And they're probably not coming to you with the identified cause of what's going on. But at what point would we maybe pepper those things into the intake form? Like, do you see these as potential causes for this reason in your life? You know, heartbreak, loss, tragedy, grief. Like, are you experiencing any of these?
It's funny because when I can see things like how many pregnancies you've had, how many vaginal births, how many cesareans, and if that number is uneven, right? Where they had more pregnancies than births, it's like, okay, I can kind of pick up there was a loss there potentially. And you know what I mean?
True. I'm like, I have had to answer that question on the intake form. And I'm like, I hope we're getting the information we need and being delicate with it here. Uh,
Exactly.
and also, now that we bring it up, I'm like, I feel like I would say like I don't know how many pregnancies I've had, which sounds like a
Mm.
very bold thing to say, like, how many has this woman had, you know? And yet at the same time, because only one worked and there's trauma associated with the rest of them, I actually don't know. I think I don't even know how many. I think I've had five miscarriages. So that would be six pregnancies.
So, okay, interesting that you bring that up because I also didn't think I'd ever been pregnant. And I say that typically, like I've never been pregnant.
Didn't you say that
And
on the episode we just did?
yes, but I literally was just reminded not too long ago, probably like a couple days ago, actually last Friday. I remember speaking to an energy reader in 2020 and I had questions about my future babies, my future husband. At that point I had met James, but we weren't dating at the time. That's my partner. And I she was basically telling me about this girl spirit baby I had in my field and also potentially a boy. And she was like, "Have you ever been pregnant before?" And I said, "No, not to my knowledge." And she was like, "But you have." And it instantly brought me back to this time. I think it was 2018. It was my birthday, 28th birthday. And my birth control, coming back to birth control, fell off because I was using the patch during birthday sex. And I realized it after the fact, after he had come inside of me, not to be super explicit, but to be totally explicit.
Love it.
Yeah. And I was like, holy fuck, or holy whatever.
I think you
And
can say fuck after saying he came inside me.
cool, cool, cool. They're together. Let's go. And oh my God, this guy I was dating so wrong for me. Also a 1-3 splenic projector, just like my partner James right now. But in any case, he shows up to my door for birthday dinner that he was taking me to with beer in one hand and Plan B in the other. No, no card, no flowers, no nothing. And I'm like, so, well,
Relieved?
obviously, it's like relieved, but also, uh, uh, like, this is the first time I've ever taken birth control, or not birth control, but Plan B. And I felt all types of ways about that. I was like, is this gonna fuck up my cycle?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
And I remember getting to the restaurant after having taken it, and
Yeah, also
those
you're gonna puke your
emotions,
guts out. Like it's a nauseating pill. So
I
I've
don't
heard.
remember feeling nauseous, but I do remember feeling a ton of grief. And
Oh,
I just cried throughout that dinner. And I made it about him. Like I made it about the fact that he showed up with nothing other than those things. And there was like it just felt like less thoughtfulness, but it's like, okay, he was taking me to dinner, treating me out. But I remember going to the bathroom and just sobbing my eyes out, and then us having this big fight, and like going back to his place and just like laying there in bed upset at each other. And when the energy reader like reminded me of all that, I was like, holy shit, I was grieving the loss of this potential baby that probably would have come through if it had not been for the plan B.
yeah, so that's the thing. As soon as they're birth control is interesting because we're putting a block in the way. But
Hmm.
as soon as you go with plan B or further, you are entering the question of removing something that may have started. And
Right.
so, and even if it's not really started beyond a cluster of cells, you're still making the choice to stop it from developing further, which means you're playing God. And unfortunately, the man's not swallowing the pill. He's not playing God. So, and I'll just be honest, unless beer was your drink of choice, we everything was wrong at the beer.
So true. Yeah. So I don't know with the
I've,
pregnancy stuff.
I've never taken it, but I definitely was like the girly for the girlies that went and got it. Um, so I
Same.
remember being with my girlfriends and them just like puking their guts out. And it's like, well, not only are you sick, you're also going to be raging bitch for the next 6 weeks while your hormones balance out again. And I'll
Right.
still be with you, man.
Right. I'll be right by your
Yeah,
side.
I'll be right here trying to sync you up with me by hanging out with you every day again.
So true. Oh my
Honestly, that's
gosh.
part of why we need the women after just to like put the cycle back in place. I never really
Mm.
thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like red tent style. Just hang
Oh,
out with the women.
I have always wanted a red tent, but honestly, I think I just always wanted a place to free bleed comfortably. And
Mm.
I'm definitely at that place now, but I mean, you got me a little bit there. You got that free bleed blanket on your site. And I'm cool with period panties. So I was like, oh, a free bleed blanket would be super nice. And I really like it. It's very comfy, washes super clean. And I'm
Hmm.
gonna be I'm like, wow, I'm being oddly transparent on this book. Yes. Because I'm in a place of wanting to do some different work for my girly bits. On my last cycle, I decided I didn't want to insert anything.
Hmm.
Something I find very fascinating is as a young girl, I thought periods were so messy. And for some reason, my experience of being a young girl with a period is that they were messy. Like
Mm.
you could stain your underwear, it could like leak or like, and they leaked regularly, like, and it was mortifying and everything. And I'm like, I
That
don't
sounds
know.
very third line.
Yeah, maybe, totally. But now that I'm older, like, I just went through an entire cycle where I didn't have to use anything. I'll be honest, I
Mm.
straight up like I why am I saying so much? Anyway, up until this last cycle, only owned one pair of period panties, which means that you can wear them and then you can take them off and wash them and dry them and then you can wear them. And so then you have like throughout the day, you get half a day with these. You get some of the hours with the blanket and you get some of the hours to just like wing it. And I would just
Mhm.
wing it and it would turn out very little comes out. You tend to bleed in spurts. It's like nothing, nothing,
Yes.
nothing. Oh, that's quite a bit. Nothing, nothing,
Yep.
nothing. Oh, okay. And like I was like, how am I managing this? Like it's almost not even happening. Whereas like as a teenager, it was a disaster that embarrassed the hell out of me.
Well, do you remember it being irregular? Because I like when I think back to that time in my life, first starting at 12 years old, it I don't register it as being like crazy or a lot or hurtful, but I truly just don't remember. But also part of me is like those early days, those early years, I should say, because it might not even be you get it and you have it. right? It's like you get it, you don't for a few months, maybe you get it again. It just starts to regulate over the first few years that you have it. And I think a lot of people forget that. I definitely did.
I don't
And
think mine was like that. I think
mm,
I was just like
on in there. Yeah.
on. And in fact, I've always had the same pattern, which is bleed for 3 days, stop for a day, bleed for one more day, and then stop totally.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm like spot for a day, stop for a day, go for 2 or 3 days. And I mean, if you've ever used a cup, you can kind of then see actually how much, or a disc,
And it's
how
not
much is
that
actually there.
much
No, 3 to 4 tablespoons probably.
for like the whole thing.
Uh-huh. For me, mine are
I
pretty
am. That's
light.
light.
Yeah, I'm on the light side.
I would say I'm fairly light, but I'm not that light. But I mean the cups are wild. Okay. To me, the cup and also the birth control ring, like
Mm, the NuvaRing, yep, that's what I was
these are
on.
like these are tricks to me. Like they shoot out of your vagina if you're not careful. So like
That's what happened to me. And that's actually one of the signs that my pelvic floor was way too tight.
oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So if
And if
cups
you're
and rings aren't working, you're too tight?
potentially,
Potentially.
potentially,
If you're
yeah.
shooting them out at you, you know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, mine, I would like probably wiggle around my hips, and I could, after having inserted it, even like got it behind my pubic bone with the ring, it would just,
Totally. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why can my friends do this, but I can't do this one?
yeah, yeah. It'd be interesting to go back and try seeing what my pelvic floor could actually handle. And yeah.
So, okay, what is the back to the I'm like, I think this was my original question a while ago. We really spiraled. What do women think the physical issue is that they're coming to you for?
Sometimes I just don't even know. Sometimes they're like, I I feel like I need to see you. I mean, yesterday I had a client who is newly pregnant, so she just kind of wanted to get a feel for um mostly like tweaks to her routine, which I'm really, really good at. Like I can kind of Rubik's cube someone's day and add these certain tweaks to their life if they do feel like they are tight in one area, weak in another area, or they just want to know how to manage um like their movement, for example. This other client came in yesterday and she had a fibroid removed and she really just wanted to not have that fibroid come back. And she didn't really like know, I guess, what she was really coming for. Um, but that was her intention. And her friend had recommended me to her, very fourth line, which I love. And yeah, we ended up going through a lot of like cycle syncing things, but also went down into the energetics. Like she's very tuned in that way too. Um, and has been studying a lot of personal development. So she kind of understands the language that I was speaking, but with a fibroid, we connected that to like unprocessed emotions and also like a blow to the ego. But specifically for her, it was like to her feminine sexuality ego with
How
her
did
partner.
you come to that conclusion?
Well, I asked her what was going on throughout her life at that point when she was first diagnosed. And she just had the inkling, like intuition to go to the doctor and get tested. Just to get, I guess she was doing a regular PAP, regular gyno appointment, and they felt this fibroid, which was big after they scanned it. And she told me that at that point she was going through a disruption in her relationship, who she was, yeah, friends with a man, and
I was just going to
um,
say, what was going on sexually, and was the person she was intimate with able to feel it?
I didn't ask her that. I
Huh.
asked more about like, yeah, those emotions and what she experienced. Like what was the actual ego death or hurt, or what did she have to what did she hear? Really. But yeah.
Okay, so when you're dealing with people, they're, let's say the most gentle connection with them is going to be you're having dialogue. And
Hmm.
then outside of that, because these are in person sessions, there's hands on the body.
Yep.
Does any of your work involve hands in the body?
Yes. I
What
can
do you
do.
do for that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, first I will, if I'm doing any kind of pelvic exploration and assessment with them, I go a lot differently than you would typically at like a gynecologist's office or an OB's office.
Well, I mean, there are self pap tests now, so it's pretty rare you're in a
Right.
position where someone else is going to touch you now.
That's actually super interesting to think about. I hope more women know that and learn that just by listening to this.
That they can do self paps, or
Yeah, that you can even get your own speculum, probably on Amazon, and use that and go view your cervix.
I am so into this for a variety of reasons I don't want to get into.
Yeah,
Like,
fair, fair, fair.
I want the duck bill for home use.
I want to get one of those just for myself too. Like and it's not even just to view my cervix, but I would like to see that. I would
No, I'm
like
like,
to
babe, get a light, get a camera, get a light. I want to see.
exactly. I want to see it bleed. I want to see it ovulating. I want to see it in all the things,
Fuck
all
yeah.
the phases. Yeah. Um, so okay, well, I go a lot slower, let's just say. Also, if you do end up going to like a doctor's office, like, like we talked about, it's 5-10 minutes maybe that you're actually getting that time with them. That's very quick. But here because a lot of also what I do is a reparative experience, like if they had ever had any kind of gynecological trauma, birth trauma, we go really, really slow. And I'm constantly checking in with them on how things feel. I'm letting them know everything, getting consent. I mean, it might be annoying, and some women are just like, you have consent to do anything you need to do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just do it. But there I also am like, let's not override certain aspects of this. Like, we will take it step by step, and totally noted. Like, I don't need to repeat myself. But I will first do a whole body scan, watch them move. And then I'll get into like abs, checking around the diaphragm, back if I need to. I mean, obviously, I would like to. Feeling all around the abdominal core. But then eventually, I'm checking like hip range of motion, strength, and then eventually we get to the pelvic floor. And before I do any kind of touch on or in, I'm watching. I'm watching how you move. I'm watching your coordination. I'm watching how much movement is actually there. So, quantity and quality of that movement. So, my cue is, can you show me what you think a Kegel is? Can you show me a breath, regular breath? Can you show me a deep breath? Can you show me what lengthening down or bearing down looks like for you on an exhale? A
Okay.
cough.
I'm like
What does
trying
your
to do
pelvic
it
floor do
all
on
as
a
you're
cough?
saying the
I
things
know.
like,
But this is where a mirror would come in handy too if you wanted to self-test all of these things. Yeah, just like watching everything because sometimes, I mean, I'll say majority of the time people are coming with pain or leaking and they don't know what's going on. And what I'll say is typically it's like backside of the pelvic floor needs a lot of love and care and massage, loving touch. Whereas like the front side also probably needs that, and yet it might need more activation or coordination, awareness brought to it. The pelvic floor should work well front to back, left to right, up and down, like a trampoline.
okay, take me back. You just said pain and leaking. Are we talking about bladder?
Yeah, bladder leaking, but also fecal leaking. I haven't had that recently, to be fair. But yeah, typically unwanted leaking.
Why would anybody experience either one of those?
Well, like for me, I had leaking, technically, those feelings of needing to go to the bathroom, but
Yeah,
maybe not being able to make it in time,
yeah.
urgency incontinence. You could have stress incontinence just from general weakness, which could come after or during pregnancy, after birth. Later on in life, it could happen after menopause when your hormones
What about
have a big
after a bladder
impact.
infection?
Ooh, yeah. I feel like for mostly bladder infections and like UTIs, it's less stress and more urgency, if anything. Less stress
Oh,
incontinence.
I just had a very uncomfortable realization, and I don't know how I haven't had this before.
Do
But
tell.
the closest I've ever been to death is at 6 weeks old. I had a bladder infection that almost killed me. And I remember saying to my mom, oh,
Wow.
it's quite a whole story. And every time she tells it to me, I get slightly more traumatized as an adult hearing this story because I think I gain the parent perspective and it's harder to hear from the parent perspective because I don't have the memory of being the baby. but
Mm.
I hit like 104 fever rapidly and no one knew why. So they took me to the hospital and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, but my mom said they kept giving me like needles, spinal taps, needles in the neck, needles in my scalp because they like couldn't find my baby veins and I was too little. So they had to put me on like there's a bicycle seat tube thing that holds the baby like straight up so they can x-ray them and stuff to do this stuff. And she
Mm.
was having a really hard time with this. She had to like call my grandma to stay with me. And then ultimately they figured out that I had a bladder infection. And I've
Mm.
always said that I have a weak bladder. Like I could do a backflip on a trampoline, but I'm gonna need some absorbency, you know? So like,
Interesting.
I've always had a super, super tiny, weak bladder, and I've always associated it with the bladder infection as a baby that almost killed me. But my thought was always just like, how did I get a bladder infection as a 6 week old? I know exactly how that happened, but why did I only just figure that out now? Who wiped me back to front as a fucking baby?
Bruh.
Also, anybody listening to this, do not wipe your daughters back to front ever. You will kill them.
With my grandma, who basically has like functional incontinence, like she wears diapers because she can't ambulate, she can't walk to the bathroom in time when she feels that
Mm.
urge sometimes. She has such poor posture, poor rotation that she was starting to do the back to front. I'm like, Grandma, no. Like she's a Cambodian, Asian, 85, didn't know about this stuff, has not been to the gynecologist, I don't think, at all since she got to America 40, 50 years ago. And I was like, if you can't rotate and wipe front to back, let's get you a Perry bottle,
Yeah, we
very
gotta get you a
often
spray
used.
bottle.
Yeah, or a bidet, like whatever you have on hand. Yeah, that helped her a lot. But I was gonna say, with like, okay, what would be interesting to play with is what's the difference between, or what are the sensational differences between your weak bladder and or potentially a weak and also tight pelvic floor? Because tightness also can be weak. Like think about a trampoline. You brought up doing backflips. Think about a
Okay.
trampoline that has a bunch of springs on it, and if it's like cold, you're going to jump on it, you're going to break through the fabric. You want the trampoline to be springy, maybe like Pilates springs. Take off a spring or two by massaging.
Okay, this is a bold podcast, y'all. I'm back.
Finding
Okay.
source.
So I was one of those women that identified with having a hard time reaching orgasm for an extended point of time. Like let's say up until I was 30, every time I'd have sex, there was like a bit of a mental game, like, are we gonna do it? Can we focus? Can we get there? How do we make this happen? Um, and because all of my previous sexual experience really was done in a performance way to appease my partner so that they'd want to be with me. There
Mm.
was a clamping on, basically like doing the Kegel during sex because you're supposed to be tight. A good woman is a tight woman, raised with whatever I'm raised with. So I got to be tight. Grade 7, someone makes a joke, but you don't want to be throwing a hot dog down a hallway. Oh my God.
Oh my
Right?
God.
You remember that stuff? Did you ever hear any of that kind of stuff? I did. So I don't want to be a hot dog in a hallway. So as a teenage girl, right off the get go, I'm like, you better be virginal always. You better be tight always. And they like it so much more when you squeeze. So you
Mm,
squeeze. So for the first decade plus of me having sex, I'm a squeezer. And
mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that my job is to get them to orgasm. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'll get there or whatever. Um,
It's not the priority.
And also, I had no ability to squirt at this point
Uh-huh.
because the muscles involved in squirting do not involve clenching, they involve pushing, bearing
Relaxing
down.
and bearing
Like, yeah,
down.
relaxing and bearing down gives way more fun. So,
Yes.
I
Yes.
once I learned to orgasm, like everything kind of unlocked a little differently. And like it was a positive feed
Mm.
loop after that, where I orgasm so easily, like so easily, and I'm so comfortable with it. And I'm a juicy girl, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it was a very opposite direction from all of my sexual conditioning. Also, when they
I
say women hit their prime in their 30s, we just get old enough to be too tired to give a shit. That's why we relax enough to enjoy sex.
preach. Which that was like literally what you experienced is very, very similar to the way I experienced sex growing up. Starting to have sex in my late teens, first 10 years, didn't orgasm once, not by myself and not even with a partner. I feel like it's typical for women to feel like they can orgasm better by themselves than they can with a partner, right?
Yep.
Um, yeah, that didn't happen for me until I was like 27. I'm 35 now. I'm like, thank God. And thank God I ended up learning about that tightness. And it's not about being tight. Like the word I really love to share is resiliency or like living in your fullest capacity. What does that feel like?
Ooh. And all, well, fullest capacity is an interesting thing because I'm like, well, now we go from tight to deep.
Mm,
But
mm,
also, like, when you're tight, you don't go deep. And sex has hurt
correct.
a lot when I've been really tight. Now, when I'm like with the partner I'm with now, sex is more, I mean, significantly more intentional, like way
Mhm.
more intentional. And there are different um sexual activities that like I'd never done before. Like, do you know what soaking is?
Tell me. I don't know. Maybe.
I'm like, I'll probably get this wrong because only one person told me the name for it. But it's where like they've entered you,
Mhm.
but you don't do anything.
Oh, I call that plugging in.
Okay, so plugging in, like
Yeah.
you're just connected and together. It's like a cuddle, but with penetration, but no
Mm-hmm.
movement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's so emotional. Like
Oh
it's
my
so emotional, especially a little more so for the man, maybe,
God.
because
Mm-hmm.
they're being held without giving, and that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, sex is so like so different now. I want to explore differently. I want to feel differently. I want to soften into things. I got rid of all my performance in sex and I'm actually enjoying it now.
Mm-hmm. And for you, like, I feel like a lot of the clients I'm having right now are struggling even to name the things that they want because they don't know what they want. And sometimes it helps to have a partner that shows you new things that you may or may not want to experience, but maybe you're open. But yeah, like what comes first? The safety and vulnerability and emotional connection, and then you can feel more explorative in your sex or like willy-nilly, let's just go for it,
I
you
was
know?
very I was quite closed off when I got together with this partner because my last partner was so damaging to me and I didn't like you learn your damage in different ways. So when I went to be intimate with my next partner after the last one, there literally wasn't space for it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I became very shallow. I would not allow a lot of penetration. It hurt. It felt too deep. Like I was too sensitive. But also rather than like, because every time it go too deep, it's like you want to tense up again. And so for me, like this the soaking thing actually did help a lot, but
Mm,
also from a perspective of me being on top because it would slowly allow me to like sink deeper into it. And like I cried a lot. And
mm-hmm.
also, most people are so concerned that sex is sexy that they don't allow certain emotions to come up. Like I would be like, I have cried in sex before, and my partners would either be like, oh my God, what's wrong? Or like, why are you doing that? Like, what a turn off. Like, that's not the right time for that, or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, clearly these were some bad situations or bad relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But with this partner, it's like they just hold space for you to relax into it. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like when I felt myself open up again to actually be able to receive all of it, it was like I really cried. It was very kind of overwhelming, but also actually so relaxing. Like I was so calm afterwards.
Yeah. I've had also a very similar experience and I'm thinking kind of in terms of human design, but I wonder what that is like just comparing maybe projector to generator or projector to projector relationship because my partner, like we've had our ups and downs, and there was one point where I emotionally was not comfy getting into bed again, essentially, and having sex. And it took us a while, but the first time we started, I was like, okay, I was open to trying. And we had done a lot of work also emotionally leading up to that point, like him committing in certain ways, me committing and showing up differently in certain ways. And I remember like opening up to, okay, we can do a night focused on me. I want to work on just receiving and seeing what's there, naming what I want. And, I thought I wanted just like a lot of foreplay, which to me, as a woman, my energy is like out here at first. And when you start to come closer to the body, right, then come closer maybe to like your heart and then your pussy, like that is what I generally like. And so we started with massage, and I was on my belly and he was doing my back really nicely. And then he asked me to turn over. I flip over, I'm exposed, belly open, breasts open. Like I feel immediately vulnerable and don't want this. And I was able to name that I needed him to ground me. And so he just laid on top of me, held me, and then slowing down, it could kind of like figure out what it is that I needed to name. And I said, yeah, I don't really want this intimacy to be sexual or even sensual. Like I just really want to feel cherished. And he was like, no problem. And just starts kissing my hand, my arm, my chest. By the time he got to my shoulders, I was sobbing also.
Hmm.
And that was like the most intimate thing like I think I've ever experienced, especially recovering from a rupture of some kind. And he just held me after that. Like there's no expectation, but I think that there's an interesting piece there with that. Like in relationships, are we programmed to all think that when someone initiates something, even like a kiss or a makeout, are we automatically assuming that they want sex, or vice versa, that they want sex, that
That
they need it?
Yeah, so like that is something I've had to talk to my partner about because he is less experienced than I am. And um I had to ask him like, do you feel like it needs to escalate
Mm-hmm.
consistently? And he was like, I have had some like concerns and some pressure about that. Like if you come and kiss me and I don't take it to the next level, am I implying that I didn't like that, or I'm not actually engaged with it, or I don't want more of it, or I want you to do something different? Like there is
Mm-hmm.
concern that if you don't reciprocate plus, then you're actually rejecting. But we have decided to, and like we've tested this out for a couple of months, but we've decided that on ovulation week, because I'm not on birth control. I haven't been in like 14 years.
Damn,
Um,
girl.
yeah, I'm not on birth control and not trying to have a baby. So we're gonna do our like best shot at respecting the safe days. And in the beginning of the relationship, it was more like, okay, so certain things are off the table unless we use protection, and that'll just like keep some things kind of special. But
Mm.
we're two projectors, and he's a mental projector. Okay, so even though it feels good, I think our 59.6 electromagnetic sometimes gets the better of us. And I think
Mm.
sometimes like our parts are pulled together, but our everything else is like, we're tired. Um, and so now we've committed to our ovulation time is reserved for non-sexual touch. So all of our
Mm.
cuddling has no expectation that it advances, whether it's a massage or like whatever. Like we can make out fine, but even then, like once it starts to get hot, I'm like, okay, take a break. Like, we're not going that way. And he's really good about managing this too, because one, it feels so much better to connect afterwards,
Yeah,
but it allows us to have a variety of physical contact in our relationship without the expectation that it's always sexual.
totally. And to me, that's like, that's keeping you juicy. That's keeping the burner on low where you could easily torque it up if you wanted to.
Yeah, this is how I make monogamy last. I mean, biology
Yeah.
is pretty smart for making monogamy work out if you respect the cycle. It keeps things
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. My partner and I, we don't have our sacral defined at all. And I know I mentioned it, I think, in my podcast episode, but it feels like our sexuality, how we express it, it gets sometimes it's clunky, but it's so experimental.
Yeah.
And
So
it's fun.
inconsistent.
Oh
And
yeah.
not like you're not having it, but like, how's it going to be? How's it going to be?
Oh
How's it
my
going to
God.
be?
And this is so crazy actually. Now I've never thought about it like this before, but I don't know what my past partners are in their designs, but I used to have this belief, and I know it's conditioning from either Cosmo, which also I want to blame for any kind of like flex your PC muscle to have an orgasm faster, but
Hmm.
also like what is quote unquote healthy for a sexual relationship? For how many times? How often are you guys engaging? And how unhealthy is like a really low frequency? And what is that number, you know? And I used to have this belief that I needed to have sex 4 times a week in order to keep my man around and keep the relationship healthy.
Hmm.
What the hell?
Dude, I'll do you one worse. I have a
Go.
1 month breakdown into relationships because I have sex every single day in the beginning of a relationship for 30 days straight, and then I break down. It's like a pattern. And it happened with Maven's dad the first time. So I was 20, and we were, from the first time we were intimate and started spending time together, I kept track intimate every day for 30 days. And on the 30th day, I had a full breakdown. And I was like, I don't have the energy. And I'm so sorry. I know you're going to be so disappointed in me. And he was like, what? And I was like, well, I've made an expectation. This is the pattern. Like, so now I have to.
Oh my
And the irony
gosh.
is, like, I want to say that the dude was like, no, you don't. But I'm,
Right?
7 years from that conversation later, I'm not married to the guy because our polyamory relationship didn't work out
Mm,
because he got a drive and I'm not interested.
so interesting. So interesting. Yeah, sometimes we're like our own worst, I don't know, not even critic, but like we are the person that sets that standard. It's like, yeah, it's really, really fascinating, that
Honestly,
deconditioning
what
piece.
I think it's fascinating how kind of shit we are as projectors at reading ourselves, like seeing ourselves and seeing our own stuff. Because, like, I can have a conversation with you and I can see so much about my stuff retroactively, but
Hmm.
in the moment, there's no way I was
Oh my
aware of a
gosh.
lot of things going on with me, especially like the deeper reasons that motivated my behavior.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like I was looking or thinking about those times when I was trying to figure out my relationship status, and the only language I really understood or was like curious about and listening to was attachment styles. I'm like, I'm anxious.
I'm all of them.
Yeah,
I'm like, whatever you
fair.
are, I'll be the opposite and make a
Yeah,
problem. Oh, you're avoidant? I'm clingy, you know?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh,
Like freaking magnets. Yeah.
okay. Here's a question. When someone's hired you for a physio appointment,
Uh-huh.
so they think. They come to you, you get information about why they are the way that they are. You can either give them, let's maybe call it like a basic physio answer,
Hmm.
or you can get into a maybe deeper conversation about cause, background, etc. Is there a point where you start to wonder how far your invitation extends in the session? Like, if they're in the room with you and they paid for it, are you good to say whatever? Or is it like, shit, they thought they were here for this, so I can't really tell them that?
I will always ask if something comes up. Like for me specifically, also just recently, after everything I've learned over the past 10 weeks with you and the other projectors, I I've been asking like, do you know about your human design? I'd be very curious. Like I just name my curiosity, and if they're open to it, I'll pull up their chart and kind of go over some stuff. But like when it comes to more of the extrasensory gifts, I feel like that is just already tied into what they've recognized me for. And I mean, that comes up in like wild, weird ways. Like, I don't have to be hands in, I can be hands on, and I still receive messages. Um, but I feel like it is more often than not, they are open to hearing all the things that I have to share, whether it's physical or somato emotional. Um, I feel like my website does a good job kind of naming that I I tie those ties together in the way that I can.
Okay, so what do you think are what are the main reasons that women end up like energetic reasons that women end up needing to come to you at all? Is it that they're disconnected from themselves? Have they experienced trauma? Are they too rigid and they can't figure out why? Are they repressed? Like, what's the main stuff?
I'd say everything you just named is pretty on point. Like, I kid you not, those are like literally the root things. And yeah, whether that came to like a trauma when they were young, like, I mean, how many of us have gone through any kind of sexual abuse or assault? Like, there
Like
are a lot of us.
it's like
And also,
75% of women.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And then, go on top of that, what's your birth experience like? You know?
Like when you came out or when you had one.
Great, great naming.
Distinction.
Yes, yes, yes. I think your birth has a lot to do with how you live your life, your relationship to your mom, your dad, and beyond. I think familial trauma is very, very fascinating. I mean, not even just from like the conditioning aspects, right? But like epigenetics. Like I just had a conversation on Friday with a woman and uh on my podcast, Kat, and we talked about how she has a lot of Holocaust survivor, like, lineage, clients that she's working with, and they all experience some kind of issue, right? But I had just been researching endometriosis and trauma and like complex trauma. And I asked her like how many of the clients that she was working with had endometriosis who were trying to resolve some trauma. And she was like, I forgot what the number she actually said, so I don't want to like misname it, but there were a few.
What
And
what does endometriosis show up as?
what do you mean?
Like what is it for the listener? Because I'm
Oh,
not
oh,
a
oh.
pelvic podcast.
Yes, true, 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 true. Yes. Okay. So endometriosis is when the uterine lining starts growing outside of your uterus and it causes physical adhesions to other organs, to just the entire abdominal cavity. It causes
Like
a
you
lot of
start growing a
pain.
uterus on the outside
Basically, that lining, yes, is growing.
into the cavity, not onto the
Mm-hmm.
outer of your body.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. But it causes all kinds of contortions of the uterus and the cervix and awful pain sometimes, awful digestion. It is an inflammatory disease that is multi-systemic. It's not just like your reproductive organs. It definitely has a lot to do with your digestive system, your detox systems, your nervous system. It's a
Does it
lot,
come from
which
programming cells to grow in the wrong place?
that's yeah, to me, what it sounds like. Yes. Like oh my gosh, what's the word? The etiology, like where it's coming from, why does this happen? I don't think we've been able to name why. We can only go back and associate, correlate, but we can't find causation all the time.
The primary discomfort with endometriosis is painful periods, right? Extremely painful.
It can be really, really awful periods, yes. But I know some people who don't have that and they just experience painful sex or painful bowel movements, infertility, like an endo belly, so like really big bloaty belly.
I'm like following my like little energy pattern things here. I'm like, so we have a muscle and the whatever says grow more muscle is landing in the wrong place. It's saying
Mm-hmm.
grow more. So in
Mm-hmm.
theory, something in the body is programming and saying not strong enough, not strong enough, not strong enough. Send more muscles to the outside. Not strong enough. Send more. So why do they think that they're so unstable? And are these also people with like anal retention issues? Are these people? So the last girl I knew that had really bad endometriosis had two sons and a partner that was failing her and cheating on her.
Oh
Like,
gosh.
where's the support in that? Are these all women who are being deeply unsupported? I mean, that's just such a vague thing to say. Of course, women are being unsupported, but like, and
No,
it's
I
going to
get
show up in a variety of ways. But why would the body program more muscle tissue to go to the base?
this thing landed for me this morning actually, like the energetics of hemorrhoids.
Bearing down a little too hard
Too
with
much force,
with
right?
a weak wall.
A weak wall, a missed balance of being able to hold the pressure
Mm-hmm.
or not being able to let go properly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the anal retention there is likely very high.
Oh my goodness. See, and I love all the health background stuff because as soon as we get into hemorrhoids, I'm like bioflavonoids and horse chestnut. Okay, but if these are the solution
Mm.
to it, what would I get that from in nature? Like, is horse chestnut an actual chestnut from like a tree or something that people are getting?
Literally
And
never even heard that. Is that an herb? I'm like,
yes, and it is the number one plant for strengthening the arterial wall lining. And it's the weak cell
oh,
wall lining of the vascular system that creates the hemorrhoid because the pressure bursts the balloon. Bioflavonoids and horse chestnut are the fastest things to repair them, which is why smokers are the first people to get hemorrhoids because their basal walls are weak.
right. Okay, interesting. I wonder if there are any herbal mixes for vaginal steaming with horse chestnut,
But see, then I'm like, okay, why do I
with
think
heat.
glutamine is part of the solution here? Because glutamine builds muscular tissue, but properly. And it feels maybe almost counteractive to take a supplement that would repair muscle tissue when you're not wanting
Mhm.
to build more of it. But what if
Hmm,
it's like cures like?
that'd be a good experiment.
I
My question is always like, well, what's the because I again like it's physical therapy technically, so I'm looking at your ADLs, your activities, daily living. Um, how are you pooping? What are the biomechanics? What's your breath biomechanics looking like? Are you Valsalva maneuvering, like holding your breath and then bearing down and forcing it to come out?
which
Is
you
your
should never
stool?
do, I'm thinking.
Please do not. Like
Yeah.
use your squatty potty, get your feet up so that your knees are higher than your hips. Let yourself exhale and your poop should fall out.
Okay, in theory, then I'm just going to say that all standardized toilets make men have obviously, okay, anyone who's averagely tall, it's not just men,
Hmm,
anyone who's
hmm,
above average height on an average toilet is going to have an easier time of this. If
hmm.
you're like 5'8" and under, please get yourself some platform shoes or a stool. Also,
Yes.
I would shit you not is a funny thing to say here. I love platforms, like absolutely all of my shoes have like a minimum like 2 3 inch little base. And once I started wearing platforms, I was like, I don't really need the squatty potty anymore.
100%. I've seen people post TikToks, Instagram Reels, whatever, with their bathroom and platform heels just living in there.
Yeah, man.
Like that's
Strippers
amazing.
got good bowel movements.
Yes, yes. Put on your pleasers.
Oh my goodness.
You'll have pleasing poops if you put on your pleasers.
Okay, so how do you explain to people when you get information that's not obviously coming from like a physical manipulation? Like, I'm sure you don't poke, to the left of their cervix and be like, oh, issues with holding on and grief. Hey, like,
I
how
mean,
do
sometimes it depends on the rapport. It literally depends on the rapport with that client. But like for one person, I remember specifically being internal, being on the right side, and I was like, I had some messages like there was something tied to the masculine. I couldn't necessarily name it. Um, but I asked her just if she was feeling anything or noticing anything coming up, and she got the download while I was there. Like the right side was significantly tighter than her left internally. And she was pregnant, second trimester, and she basically heard that the birth of her son was going to be healing for her entire maternal line who had experienced, besides her, who had experienced some level of sexual assault or abuse.
you
And like her son, so cute, manifester, like great.
and she had a manifester. She birthed an
Sh-
initiation.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Another client, um, yeah, I mean, I'll just name it. Like, something's coming up for me here. I was working on her right hip, and again, something was naming to me masculine, but I got something more specific this time. And I just heard the question, ask about her son. And I didn't even know she had a son. Like, I knew she had children. I knew she had three. Um, but I did. I was like, what's going on? Like, anything with your children? Like, how are your relationships with your kids? And she brought up her son and the turmoil that they'd been through, the dysregulation, and she like immediately also just tears and um processing and just naming the thing sometimes is like obviously the most healing thing. The acknowledgement of that, but like her body was holding that.
Have you ever felt people's babies, either ones that are coming in or ones that they've aborted or miscarried or
In terms of feeling, do you mean like feeling them in the womb or just feeling them energetically?
in any capacity? But do you get the presence of like someone has someone with them or waiting to come through or they're attached to something?
I'm reading Spirit Babies right now, and so I'm just getting way more attuned to that for my clients. I feel my spirit baby for sure. I'm
Oh,
actually very curious if I'm going to have twins or not, but um yeah, she's been present with me since like I was made aware of her by that energy reader. I was then open to it and she comes to me when I am breathing, meditating, slowing down, like whenever I'm quiet, you know.
don't tell me, but have you heard her name?
I I found her name. I
Haha,
didn't I didn't
name
hear
changing.
it.
Very cool.
We'll see. We'll see if she actually wants that name.
How do we know?
I think, like when people get their list and then they see the baby and then it's just like, yeah, that one, that name
It
belongs to
fits her,
that
it doesn't.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the splenic spontaneity will just take over for that one.
Do you ever hear
And
about people that haven't named their baby? It's like 2 weeks have gone by and they haven't named it yet. And I'm like,
I
what
have.
is going on with you?
That is so wild to me. I would absolutely want my baby to have its name.
I'm like, what do you call it? You just call it baby? Like,
Right. Baby A. Like,
what's up,
whatever.
babe?
Yeah. Oh my God. For our name, we have to be careful though, because James's last name is Bush. And
Yeah,
I'm
that's why
like,
you gotta
I'm
be
a
careful.
right. Like I'm a not a woodsy girl, but like I love nature. But I can't name her a fully um obvious nature name because it just sounds dumb.
Like Hazelbush.
Yeah. Like lavender, violet bush, like rose bush. Can't do it.
Who are the
Sage, like,
famous? Oh my God, I was like, who are the famous Bushes? They're all men. I'm like, Sophia Bush is a famous woman.
oh yeah, there you go. I mean, that's a cute name. But
Sophia, that's cute. It's classy.
yeah, yeah. She classy, that girl. But
Oh, you did limit your nature name choices.
I know.
You can't be like River Bush. This is actually kind of fun to do.
Right? Like can't do sky, can't
I
do
was
like just
James.
doesn't fit. I know. What do
Can
we
we
do?
hyphenate with your last name? Can you be Bush Ellers?
Maybe, maybe. We haven't talked about it.
You could be
Not
Ellers
that part.
Bush. You could sound like you're on New Kind of Tree.
That's cute.
Yeah.
I've had friends who have like completely made up their last names, like as a blend of the two people,
Do
and their
they
baby
hate
has
their
that name.
family? I mean, I would do that, but
It's
I'm
a,
not a fan of my lineage. So
it's a great question. I actually don't know what their relationship is like to their families, but
I honestly thought I wanted to get married just because so I was like, I'm not,
for a different last name.
yeah, give me a new one, which is wild because I branded mine at this point. I think I have to say
Yeah.
Sam Zagar. I did one of those things. We'll always be Sam Zagar now.
Well, it's kind of yeah for me too. Like the licensing, I think as a PT in California, it's really hard to change your name. And so after you get married, I think a lot of people who are PTs here, they don't change their last names because it's so difficult to change their license. Maybe that's different nowadays. I don't know. It's been a while since I graduated,
I'm going to ask
but
a
last I
totally
heard,
random question. I'm gonna
Give it.
I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna do it with this one because I know some of my more human design people are gonna really appreciate this. But your indirect light, how are you
Hmm.
functioning as a day human?
Okay, I'm a part of this indirect light Facebook group. That was probably one of like the first
The
experiments I
group's on dark
started.
mode.
I'm on dark mode for everything. That's
Of
for
course you
damn
are.
sure. For damn sure. Um, I started playing with that probably like a year and a half ago. Again, like just with food, really. Um, and thinking about my past, I guess, on like how I functioned. I actually never thought of myself as a night owl. There are some people in that group are full on vampires. Like they don't stay awake during the day. They will nap for 4 or 5 hours. And
Amazing.
like I can't do that. Like,
Most of
but
them
I
are not parents.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they have, yeah, like it's really interesting. I think a lot of them do have night shift jobs.
Yep.
But when I look back at like when I felt in my best, in my rhythm, in my power for my teachings, for yoga, like I always taught the last class of the day. Like I taught the 7 p.m. hot yoga flow. When I teach vaginal alchemy stuff, I'm like only doing it at night. I can do
Are
like
these group classes?
they were live group classes. Yeah.
Okay, because that's one of the first times you've talked about online work. Because I
Yeah.
have more questions about. I was trying to wrap this up, but I got
It's
another
okay.
question.
I got time.
Okay, so when you do a group class, especially online, do you still get intuitive hits from people? Because now we're distance and we have more people in the room.
I haven't been able to practice that recently, like with this knowledge, with this awareness at this range of depth that I have now. But what I will say is those kinds of classes really bring me to life too, because there's a Q&A at the end, right? We can just chit chat. They pull all kinds of shit out of me. And I will record myself, obviously, and send them the recording. And then I'll end up clipping out things that I say, like a little 2-minute riff on a certain topic. And that's what I end up sharing on social media sometimes. And that's like so easy for me. That's
Hmm.
so fun and easy. Um, yeah, no, those intuitive hits are more so right now for me practiced in person. And then like now, just now, starting to get more online. And when I work with people, even like one-on-one online, again, just these messages, they do flow through.
Are you open to, like, let's say someone in my audience wants to talk to you, but they don't live in your city? Are you open to
Mhm.
having online conversations as sessions?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I love doing that.
excellent.
Yeah. Sometimes like I mean those kinds of conversations are the ones that stimulate my creativity. And like for example, I had a call with a gal on the East Coast and she's a mom. She has a lot of mom sister like interesting tough dynamics and body image things, and that was the catalyst for me creating a meditation for the mother wound, and it being like a womb meditation and a healing um but I always try to create something that they can maybe then lean back on, and I share it with the rest of the world because I think a lot of people could resonate. But yeah, I would love that.
Okay, now if there's any, I don't want to call them dream clients, but if there are any like new conversations you wanted to have with people, not that you want anybody to have an issue or a disorder or a problem,
Mhm.
but are there people with issues that you want more experience with, or you want to know more about, or you want to dig into that you want to come to you?
I'm actually very curious about infertility, unexplained infertility. What the fuck?
And it's on the rise for sure.
Yeah,
And not only that, but like a lot of people are just selectively choosing that they don't want to have kids.
right. I would love to dig into those women who, not dig in a bad way, like not aggressive, obviously,
A gentle scoop.
but a gentle scoop. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I'd love to talk to them, see what their routines are like, what are their cycles like? Do they feel connected to that feminine essence and energy? Like, can they even say the word pussy? Like, you know what I mean? Just what does
Hmm.
that okay, the hit that I got recently on someone too who is has been trying for a while in my world, over a year, and is leaning more towards doing IVF, which from what I've heard about people who do work with spirit babies, like they are open to that. They're open to trying a new way to come to earth. But they are looking for more aware parents, right? Consciously aware to help them, right, with their path. But I got the hit that she'd been working so hard for this body that she has. She looks great. She looks incredible.
She don't want to give it up though.
Doesn't want to give it up.
Yeah.
There's no room in her life right now for that. And I mean, she's also starting a business. That's a whole other baby. Like that's a
That's
lot
a
of life
whole other
giving.
baby. And also, like, that's a business baby where you're typically a single parent right off the bat. Like,
Yeah.
we're alone in a lot of our big projects. Parenting is scary now because most of us, I think, expect to be doing it solo.
Yeah, and I do know I've been working with a couple of solo moms, but by choice.
And I'll be honest, I would rather be a solo mom than still be married to my ex-husband. It was still the right choice and very preferable.
Fair.
But it's whenever I have my son, it's been my responsibility to be his mother and his father when he's here. He doesn't just get a mom here and then a dad there because he's seriously lacking
Mm-hmm.
the other side of the equation. And a week is a long time for a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he's here, like I got to be tough in a certain way, and his dad's got to be nurturing in a certain kind of way. And there's nothing wrong with bringing out some of those qualities in me, but I, I brought them out so consistently that like it takes me 2 days of Maven being gone to put my dick on a shelf, and then I only got oh my god, you have a dick on a shelf.
Sitting right behind me is a dick.
This
Yes.
is not video for all of you listening, but she has beautiful medical sculptures behind her on her bookshelf, which is entirely appropriate for this conversation in her line of work.
Correct. Correct.
But either way, putting my dick on a shelf, man, it means that I only get to be feminine for a couple days every 2 weeks. And it was making me too rough, too rigid, too intense, too it's been I've not lost a lot of my femininity. It's just like now that I have an appropriate masculine counterpart in my life, it's definitely like, whoa, I'm realizing how much of my femininity I thought I didn't have time for.
Hmm. Bless the men who show up in their positive, not, I mean, I don't want to even say toxic masculinity, but because I think masculinity in and of itself is what we need in
Yeah.
each of us. But like, bless those men who can really embody that and create that container space for us to be fluid and soft and receptive.
Trying to be feminine is one thing, but it is so much harder when you don't have duality to like contrast yourself against.
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation with the polarity stuff. Like, yeah, I don't want to talk too much on it, but yeah, it's a really interesting conversation.
Well, it seems like this is a very appropriate time for us to close up. I'm
Sounds
sweating
good.
to death.
Yeah, right? It's getting hot here.
Got my fire in my 40-degree studio. I'm like, beautiful little glow over.
Yes, I love the fire.
Oh, well, thanks for chatting with me.
Thanks for having me. This is fun. Let's do it again.